remember when I was swapping out the windscreen that I had a lot of problem with my interior mirrors. I've had the original one broke, and then the replacement one, this one, also broke. And what happens is the seal in between the two plates of glass just gives up, and all the liquid, air gets in, all the liquid just coagulates in the corner. And the way it works is there's just a current. You can see where the current passed through at the bottom and on the top, and then that turns the liquid semi-opaque. Very clever, very simple, but very delicate. The later Ford ones are much tougher and much better quality, but the wiring is different. So this is the B&W pin, and this has got connector. This has got 9 pins in it. I tell a lie. And this is the Ford one, the later Ford one, which has only got 5. Now, looking at the wiring going through here into the back of the circuit board, all the wires correspond with the exception of these two at the end. Now, I know from the research I've been doing that these are power. This is either an ignition, I think this is the ignition, or a reverse lockout, one of the things, so that when you put it in reverse, it knows it and turns the mirror off. And then these two are for the door mirrors, these two sets, and you can kind of see where that corresponds here. What it looks like on later cars is all this stays the same, but I think they've merged the door mirror function. Now, I don't know enough about what's going on, and I can't find a wiring diagram that corresponds to these wires at all. So I'm just going to have to just ignore the fact that these double up, that on later cars that these wires and these wires are worked off one circuit. So I've just basically spliced in the B&W connector into the Ford mirror. I've got all the colors correspond. I've just got these two left over, and these two wires, by the way, are just for the little, they go in there, it's just for the little LEDs, so I'm not worried about those. So that's what I've done. I've done a basic splice, color for color. I'm going to plug it in now, and hopefully it works. I expect, hopefully the interior will work, and one of the door mirrors, and hopefully it'll be the driver's door mirror, because that's the most annoying. As I say, it's just it's a bit of guesswork, but logically, it should be okay. Right, so what I've got now is got my mirror ready to go. I'm going to plug it in. B&W connector. Oh, that's satisfying. Right, so I'll turn on the ignition. Okay, so that should get that thing working. And then it should then pretty instantaneously react if I put a bright light on it. And absolutely nothing is happening on the interior or exterior mirrors. Okay, well, okay, that's a bit disappointing. I mean, oh, okay. Well, it always was a bit of a punt, I guess. So it's disappointing though. But it doesn't require the outside lights to be on, does it? Oh wait, wait. What's just happened? Something's just happened. Ah, it's come on. It's worked. I need to have the lights on. Now, oh wow. Okay, that's so cool. Ha! That's it. Do I have any exterior dimming going on at all? I wonder. I don't think either of the exterior mirrors have dimmed. No, they haven't. But the interior one works. Oh. And also, whoa, this is happening. Something's not right. Okay. Something is not right. So. Oh, that's not happy. Something's not happy there. Okay. Right. Ignition off. Let's unplug this. I've done something to this which is making it very unhappy. So I am going to, the last thing I want to do now is screw up my LCM again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe take away the exterior mirror stuff and just leave this with basic power and not have it talking to the LCM at all. So basically all that's going there now are just 3 wires, 2 for power and 1 for, I think, from the lights. So let's see what happens now. Okay. So ignition's on. And I put light on this and nothing is happening. Now I'm going to put on the interior lights. Okay. Let's see what happens. Okay. So now my exterior lights are fine. Nothing's flashing here anymore, but my dimmer isn't working anymore. Put on the high beams, see if that makes a difference. No, nothing. Nothing. Well, okay. How weird. Okay, well, I haven't done anything else to it, right? Nothing, but it is now starting to work. You see it dimming? So now you can pick out the individual LEDs in it, whereas before you just get a blast of light. So whatever it's doing now, it's working. It's not causing my LCM to go bananas. Hopefully you can see this in the mirror. Let me do it this way so you can see what's going on. There you go. Okay. Now, hopefully you can see this. Well, I can see the glare coming right down. It might not be so noticeable on the camera, but it's working. It's in, it's working, and it's not freaking the car out. So I'm going to take that as a win. I'm going to wrap all this up, stuff it back up into its holder, and not think about it anymore. I've got a functioning interior mirror. The doors don't dim, but I can live with that. So I've had to take all the wiring apart again because foolishly I'd forgotten to run it through. There's a little slot in behind the mirror, kind of right in there, that is the home for the connector, and but in order to get that to work, it's got to come out through the back of the mirror and then loop its way back through it, and I forgot to do that. So in the process of doing that, I also cleaned up all the wiring and just sort of try to make it look a bit more, just to clean it up in there, just get rid of the clutter that's in there. So now I just need to test it. So I'm going to do my little lighty thing. Right, so I'm going to show you what I'm looking at. So I'm going to put the keys on. Da-da-da. Key in ignition, yeah, I know that. Right, so that's my mirror. Okay, so is it working? Yes. Even without the lights on, that's come on. So that's working. Like, end of. I don't need to put the lights on or anything. It's just kicked in and worked. So I'll take that as a win. That's perfect, and I'll get rid of that, and hopefully you'll see it lighten up again. There you go. So what I've got now is basic functionality in that. It does the basic dimming mirror thing. The exterior mirrors don't dim, but excuse me. You know, I tried fiddling a little bit with the loom to see if I could make that talk to the mirrors, but it seems to run differently. So even though that there are two wires coming out of this to talk to the mirrors, the exterior mirrors, I mean, it seems they're not direct connectors. They obviously feed back into the light module. Oh, the other thing I need to do as well is just check that with my mirror working. All my lights are okay. Yeah, no flashing of the dials. And this is still working. Yeah, dimming away nicely. So we're good. Right, so one of the things that I've never checked actually on this car is whether or not the washers and the wipers work on the headlamps. So I'm going to do that now. This is going to be one of those things that I know the juice is not worth the squeeze on this, but I won't be able to. I'm just checking if I can see the car. Yeah, I won't be able to stop thinking about it until I check, and then I won't be able to stop thinking about fixing it if something doesn't work. I got one working. No squirting, but one wiper. I had a feeling that was the case. What started off as a fairly small thing has actually escalated rather, well, alarmingly is the wrong word, but it has definitely escalated. The issue that I had was my headlamp washers. As I say this, I do realize it isn't much of an issue, but my headlamp squirters and washers weren't working, and I'm a little bit OCD, and it annoyed me that they weren't working, and I want to understand why. Well, the reason why is I ordered these motors in to replace them. They're actually the wrong ones. They don't fit this car, but I ordered them in, and so the idea was I would take everything out and put the new motors in. And then once I took the whole setup out, it turned out that the motors, you can see them there, are actually a completely different shape and size, but they're also all working. The reason that they're not doing anything when I squirt them is because they can't. They're backed up with pressure. And the reason for that is, and I've discovered this as I went through this, there are along the sort of hose system that feeds the headlamps, there are these little valves. So they stop, obviously, backflow, so that when you hit the squirters, they respond fairly instantly. The problem with all of these, though, is there's a little arrow on them. They're one way, and they get completely blocked. So rather than bothering my arse trying to figure out, unblock them, so they can block again, I've just bypassed them. I basically cut them off and just hooked the hoses straight up to the washer assemblies. The way the washer works is it comes in through the back of the arm, the wiper arm, and squirts out here, and it's directed around through the sort of wiper bit itself. It's quite clever, really. But that was job one. That and replacing the motor. One of my motors had stopped working, so I got a new one. I'm going to pop that in. Pop that in there. I'm closing that down. But in order to get to all this, you have to take the whole front of the car off, grille, headlamps obviously have to come out, and then the water bottle and the motors are down there. So that has been an all-day job. Bit of a faff, to be honest with you, but I knew it wasn't working and it just bugged me. Right, so I have reinstalled the offside headlamp, taken the return valve out of it that seems to be blocked, so it's a straight hose through. I don't know whether this will work or not, whether any water will go through or not, but at least it's moving it in the right direction. And then this is all hooked up. The only thing I haven't put the headlamp back in yet, but they're the two wires for the headlamp, and it just needs to be slotted back in, the wiper put on. So what I'm going to do now is check that I've got the right. What's that for? Oh yeah, that's for the wiper. Yeah, I need to put that on. I gotta click that in there. They need to go in one way, which is this way. There we go. Snap that in. Okay, that's that in. Okay, nice. So we got that hooked up. Right. So I got a bolt to put in there. Yeah, a few bits and pieces to do. But anyway, so I'm going to turn it on now. Check if the squirty bits work on the headlamp. So to do that, I got to do this. Yeah, that. Lights. We got some water out of this side, and we got some water out of this side. Okay, let's have a look. Well, I still have the air intake assembly to kind of reassemble a little bit, and the grill to put back on, which doesn't take very long. But now let's do another test of headlamp system. Let's see if it works. Stuff here to cooperate with me. Okay, so do our washers and wipers work, and also do our headlamps now work as well. Check. Wash, check both those, make sure that they're happy. Both side lights are working too, yeah, all good. Okay, this is a good sign. Now, washing the windshield. Okay, something's happened here, which is a bit quirky. Right. Well, after quite a few hours of work, I am pretty much back to where I started, to be honest with you, in every respect. So the two things I was working on was headlamp washers and wipers and getting the stereo to stop flicking up and down when I put it in dim mode, so that it would dim properly at night and not flick back up and down. So the way I tried to sort that was running a wire off the running lamps up here, because I figured they'd have they're filament bulbs and they'd have a solid 12-volt supply. Well, they don't. And even though I've routed the wire all the way through and hooked it up and it looked fine earlier on, now when I tested it, it doesn't work. It's flicking up and down again. It goes dim when you've got the lights on, then it goes light and it goes dim again. So that's frustrating. And then I started off with one wiper working and no washers, and that's where I am right now. That wiper worked a little bit and then kind of hasn't again, and when I unplug it and plug it back in again, it does its dance. And then in terms of the washers, I think the reason the valves were there was in order to be able to maintain the pressure in the system, so that when you squirted it, the squirter only had to stay on for a little while, and then it would shoot the water onto the headlamps. But I think maybe without the little valves on there, the water just isn't getting through enough. It's just very frustrating, all that work, and I'm pretty much back where I started. I think the only solution I can think of as regards the stereo is there's a little resistor that you can get for making the backup camera work. I'm going to give that a try. They're only about 5 or 6 quid, so it's worth a punt. And then in terms of the washers and lights themselves, well, I'm just going to have to live with it. I've got one working, that's about it. It pissed me off, there's so much work. Yeah, for nothing at the end of the day. But at least I know how they work now, and you know, if anything does ever go wrong with them again, I can hopefully figure it out. I'm thinking about replacing. There's a guy selling a headlamp, so I'm thinking about buying that, and maybe the ECU on that might change things, might make it read a little bit different. I don't know. I'm just clutching the straws, but anyway, it is what it is. I didn't record it because I honestly didn't think it would make any difference, but I decided to take the headlamp out one last time just to check that all the hoses were connected properly, in the right order, in the right way, make sure there were no blockages, make sure all the wiring was correct. And in doing so, I decided I'd put the original motor that came with the car back into the headlamp assembly. And when I was doing so, I noticed that the wiper arm protruded at a slightly funky angle. It was fouling a little bit on the headlamp and on the surround. So I gave that a bit of a tweak, put the whole lot back together, and what do you know? It worked. And a year later, it still worked. I don't quite know why that would make a difference, but it has, and I ain't gonna mess with it.